What is this antique piece of machinery, probably from the early 20th century? It measures 4.5 inches long and weighs 8 ounces. A friend inherited this from his grandmother recently and has no idea what it could be. So far we've had no luck looking at kitchen utensils, tools, farm equipment, sewing machine parts, light fixtures, or piano pieces, though of course, we could have missed something. The object came from Kentucky, if that's helpful. Any idea what this could be? It's a dental articulator for dental lab work. It's what you mount stone casts of teeth to fabricate dental prosthetics. This articulator was very popular during the last half of the 19th century. It has an anterior-posterior tongue and groove mechanism for changing the position of the upper member. Articulators with this basic design were in very common use until the last half of the 20th century. Many of these had no markings, and as a result, their origins are not known. A friend got this medieval Dutch pottery piece at an auction, and the certificate says that it's Dutch, from anywhere between the 14th and 17th centuries. What is the purpose of this item and its name? It's an early Islamic oil lamp. There is a transition period from Byzantine to Islamic lamps. The decoration on lamps of this transition period changed from crosses, animals, human likenesses, birds, or fish to plain linear, geometric, and raised dot patterns. The nose could contain some wick, and inside was a burnable fuel like oil. The top thing might been protection if the oil inside caught fire or you got into the wind and had a huge flame on the front. What is this antique button presser thing with no apparent purpose? It's almost 6 centimeters long, made in Japan, and appears to be sealed with no way of opening it. The 3 buttons are pressable and spring back into place when depressed. My guess is it's a dispenser of some sort, but of what I have no clue. I found it amongst a deceased relative's belongings. What is this thing? It's a token holder from the 1930s. It was used to store and dispense 16mm transit tokens or dimes, as they were usually smaller than coins and could easily get lost. Each slot can hold 1 to 4 tokens. What is this silver thing I found in my father's antique collection? Neither of us knows what it is. It's very heavy. Both parts open up, and the smaller one has some kind of an old residue. I'm too scared to touch it because maybe it's poisonous. It looks handmade, but I couldn't find the mark for silver anywhere on it. Does anyone have an idea? It's a betel nut and lime holder from the late 19th century. They held seeds of the areca palm, commonly referred to as betel nuts, in the large compartment, and slaked lime in the smaller compartment. Across the world, these ingredients are prepared in several ways. The most popular is betel quid, combining them and wrapping them with betel leaves. The quid is chewed similarly to tobacco or gum and provides a stimulant effect. Betel nut chewing is a cultural practice throughout the world, but occurs primarily in South Asian, Southeast Asian, East Asian, and Oceanic countries. What is this wooden purse-shaped thing I found at an antique shop? It's heavy, made of old wood with a scratched X pattern on the sides. It has a container in the middle with a ring pull and wrought iron handle. It seems handmade and way too small for a lunchbox. The interior is dark and maybe 1.5 inches wide, 2 inches deep, and 4 inches long. It doesn't smell like anything other than wood. No bananas, so apple for scale. What is this thing? It's a primitive tinder box from the 19th century. It used to contain fire, steel, flint, and tinder. It may also contain sulfur-tipped matches. They are used together to help kindle a fire. This had been typical in households in the 18th century. They are also relatively common in the early part of the 19th century. Tinderboxes fell out of general usage when friction matches were invented. What is this thing that came into my dad's antique store yesterday? I know it's a magnet, but what is its purpose specifically? It's heavy as its cast iron body, with the testing and calibration notes somewhat on what's left of the sticker. But why does it have the testing and service, test, and recharge label on it? It has to be some kind of precision instrument in its day. Does anyone know what it is? They're called magnetron magnets. They're part of a military radar set during World War II. The magnet for the microwave tube. Like the Manhattan Project, These radar tubes were a carefully guarded black project secret weapon from World War II. It was a British discovery, but to avoid the bombing going on at the time, the project was brought overseas to MIT, to the newly created RAD lab. They named it Radiation Lab as deception, because back in 1940, any foreign spies would know that nuclear physics research was just a bunch of obscure theory, with no possible military applications. What is this thing I just picked up at the antique fair? The seller had assorted antiquities. He had Greek, Roman, Persian, and Celtic antiquities in his collection, and he advised me it's a Roman design. The item is made from bronze, and the patina seems authentic. Any ideas on what this is? It's a cast copper alloy Jew's harp from the late post-medieval period. The rabbit is located at the apex of the head, but is missing the iron tongue, which would have been used to sound the instrument. This Jew's harp dates between 1400 and 1700 AD. They are believed to be indigenous to Southeast Asia and had been introduced to Europe during the Crusades between the 11th and 14th centuries AD. What is this antique farm toolbox with a clamp? It's hand dovetailed with an iron handle that opens and closes. It was with antique farm tools as part of an estate from the Northeast United States. It measures 11.5 by 9 by 4 inches high, not including the handle. Any ideas? It's a sugar cutter box from the early 19th century. Back then, sugar was often kept in a locked box as it was a treasure. They were very rare, as were spices, chocolate, and coffee. These were used to nip sugar off of the cone it was formed into granular sugar. What is this mystery machine found at the Melville Academy Museum in Jaffrey, New Hampshire? It's an antique wooden iron tool with hand crank for bending something. It's about 24 inches wide and 36 inches tall. They wouldn't allow touching it to see how it works, but it looks like something is placed in it and cranked down for bending. The region had lots of farms, tanneries, basket shops, and mills. There are no identifying markings. They don't know who brought it there or when. Some items there go back to 1800s. Has anyone seen a similar tool or designs for something similar? It's a leather crimping machine, patented in 1845. After some research, Jaffrey had 2 tanneries in the early to mid-19th century, as well as a shoemaker named Jonathan Gibbs, so this seems reasonable. During crimping, a flat piece of leather is molded through some combination of pressure, moisture, and heat. This is accomplished either by machine using a metal plate, or by hand with a wooden guide in a technique known as blocking. I found this at an antique store. I tried to search the numbers and letters on the front and could not find anything. It seems to be antique, but with digital screens. The knobs on the side seem to have 4 rows of adjustable numbers. The farthest one to the right seems to have only the numbers 1 to 12 on it, making me think it is related to dates back to the 1950s. The tag says, "I don't know exactly what this is, but for $45 it could be yours." Any idea what is this thing? Please tell us in the comments. Thanks for watching. Let's make life fun.